What's up, Space Pirates? This is your captain, the chronically charismatic Dr. Disaster, and today we have to talk about Echo, a show whose failure to land will rival the kicks and punches from its crappy cinematography. The first reviews are in on this piece of crap, and it is one of the lowest rated MCU shows on Disney Plus according to Rotten Tomatoes audience score. In this video, we are going to take a look at this Rotten Tomatoes score and compare it to the other MCU shows to see where it ranks. Spoiler alert, it's pretty damn low in the rankings. And then we are going to look at some of the reviews and what they have to say about the show, and we will finish off by looking at evidence that the Disney Plus MCU project has failed.
Now your failure is complete.
Alright, me hearties, don't forget to like this video in order to help me defeat the evil algorithm monster. And while you're at it, you should follow me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. My handle is Dr. Disaster 1. In any event, let's take a look at the Rotten Tomatoes score for Echo and see where it lands compared to its contemporaries. As of this recording, it is sitting at 70% for critics and 74% for the audience. Considering how many die-hard MCU stans refuse to admit that the franchise has failed and they flock to these sites to save face for their corporate overlords, considering how many of them exist, this isn't very good at all. In fact, only 2 MCU shows on Disney Plus have a lower audience score. Last year's Secret Invasion got only a 47% rating because it was a real stinker that not even the hardcore MCU peeps liked. And the queen of fan hatred is She-Hulk at a lowly 32%. Echo is currently the third lowest at its 74%. The next lowest is Ms. Marvel at 80%. All the rest of the MCU shows on Disney Plus were in the mid-80s or higher. So yeah, this is a drop down and indicates slowing interest in the MCU. Here's a couple of Rotten Tomato user reviews. The first one says, "Jesus, what the hell is Disney thinking? 3 episodes in, and this is just some awful stuff. Disney continues to destroy its brand with content not a single soul asked for, and was created specifically to push the message." The next user wrote, "Sat down and plugged through the entire series to get my own opinion of the show, since I don't like to take others' opinions at face value. The fight scenes were absolutely atrocious, and that was the best thing that one can say about this series. The story was meh in its best areas, cringy and boring for the rest. I actually had to back up and rewatch some parts because I found myself falling asleep quite a bit. This character could have been written interesting, but it just wasn't. There was nothing really compelling about this series, and it isn't hard to see why it was all dumped in one go. Disney didn't want to have negative reviews put out there for 5 weeks in a row." And this user wrote, "Not great. Very focused on non-superhero things and has you believe the show is going one way and goes another. I feel like many of the streamers' shows do this where they kind of trick you by including some very short moments from cool characters like Daredevil, but he's not really in the show. Too many shows do this where the first episode or 2 makes you think the show is going to be cool, but then it changes and focuses, say, on her Native American heritage instead of being a hero or an anti-hero. Also, where are her powers? In the comics, she actually has powers. Why, oh why, would some of these people not like Echo? I just can't understand it. Oh, maybe it's because of pandering bullshit like this. Disney and Marvel just do not understand their audience, not in the slightest. Nobody but wacko wokesters are impressed with the feminization of all things. This won't move the needle in a positive direction for the majority of people, but you keep doing you, Marvel. It's working so well. Oh wait, maybe it isn't. Let's take a look at our trusty Google Trends charts to see how well Marvel is faring these days. For those who aren't in the know, Google Trends is a service offered by Google which will track how often a search term is entered into Google relative to other terms. It won't show raw numbers as to how often something was searched up, but it will show you how popular something is compared to other terms. It will show percentages, and it is a great way to gauge enthusiasm. So yeah, this chart shows us the first 5 of the MCU shows, and you will notice a general downward trend in the enthusiasm for the MCU. WandaVision is represented by the line in blue. It was the first show of the MCU, and it was the peak of MCU Disney Plus enthusiasm. There was quite a drop afterward, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier represented by the red line. It only reached 48% of the MCU's peak. And then came Loki's first season, represented in yellow. At its highest crest, it hit 92% of WandaVision's peak interest. But you will note that this second season way over here dropped like a rock and only hit 34% of the MCU's peak. The wheels really came off after Loki season 1. The show, featuring Hawkeye getting outclassed by his female counterpart, is represented by the green line, and it only hit 55% of the searches that WandaVision got. And then Moon Knight in purple did about the same, only getting 53%. Now, since Google Trends only lets us have 5 search terms entered in at one time, we are going to replace everything but WandaVision here so that we have our gold standard for the rest of them to be compared to. After filling in the rest of the MCU shows that have come out so far, we can see that Ms. Marvel, represented by the red line, only hit 23% of WandaVision. And then there's a bit of a spike with She-Hulk. Now, this is one of those instances where a bit of context is in order. The release of the show saw it reach 39% of the peak of the MCU on Disney Plus. But as you can see, the interest in the show fell off a cliff as the show released. As you may recall, there were a lot of controversies surrounding She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and people were talking about it a lot. But that didn't translate into viewership, as you can see here. It simply translated into fan hatred, as evidenced by its score on Rotten Tomatoes. The rest of the shows continued the downward trend of the MCU. Secret Invasion, represented by the green line, was almost universally panned by critics and audiences, and it only hit 20% of WandaVision. And now we have Echo, currently sitting at the lowest mark at a paltry 17% of the interest shown in the very first MCU show. And I don't think that Echo's number is going to get any higher because all of the episodes of this 5-episode show were released Netflix style at the same time. This is likely because Disney knew they wouldn't be able to hold any interest in this piece of garbage. But there you have it. The MCU shows on Disney Plus are trending down. People are checking out, and these D-list characters that Disney is giving shows to, they just aren't working. Disney, Marvel, they are scraping the bottom of the barrel in order to make sure they get maximum diversity.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.